Today's topics will include confusion, culture, and leadership. Here's episode 41 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Coach Schwanke, top of the morning to you, Mr. Schwanke. How you doing today?
Good. Just got back from watching my first set of real baseball games down in Florida, junior colleges.
Oh, I love it. How did that go this weekend?
Went pretty well. I mean, it becomes a really unique experience for me now, because back in the day when you were at Oklahoma State and you're building a program, you're looking at every player, trying to figure out which guys would have interest and can help you play. And then you go to LSU and you have a situation where the program's established and very successful, and so it becomes almost like a shopping expedition where I'd like to visit the guy. And then you go to the role that I'm in now as an agent, and all you're looking for are guys that you believe, based on your experience, have a chance to make it to the highest level. So the pool of guys you got to concentrate when there's 20 teams running around is much less.
That seems that could be a little bit more stressful, or maybe even a little bit less stressful. But hearing you say the LSU thing, that made me laugh. It's like you're shopping. I mean, who doesn't want to go play at LSU? I mean, at this point, who doesn't want to go play at Oklahoma State? Who doesn't want to go play at any of these Power 4 schools?
Yeah, no, it's a really unique world right now. And just give you one quick little sidelight here. A real successful D1 JUCO program that I watched play had 11 guys transfer into their program at the break from Division I.
Gosh.
And I'm talking good Division I schools. So
there's
the moving parts now in college baseball are pretty dramatic. And I guess it's going to get, a little bit more organized when they cut back on the roster size and things stabilize a little bit here in the next year or so.
So Coach Schwanke, I want to reiterate that for all the parents, the recruits out there wanting to play at the collegiate level. Obviously, you can get it done and you can, have your dreams and everything. But what Coach Schwanke just said is he was out watching some good junior college baseball down in Florida this weekend, and one of the higher level programs at the junior college NJCAA Division I level down in Florida had 11 transfers at semester. What was the total size of the roster, Coach Schwanke?
I can't answer you. But I do know that several of them were really high profile, scattered in this tournament, were really high profile Division I freshmen that went to SEC, Big 12, ACC schools and dropped out. Some were freshmen at the end of their first semester, and some were freshmen that played a year at the Division I level. So the level of competition was a little bit more significant at those junior college events.
Wow, that's interesting. That is just interesting, and I want to kind of I just hearing. I spoke with a coach earlier this week, a Division II coach, okay, and he told me. I said, hey, are you done with your 2025s? And I couldn't believe it, expecting going into the spring that a good high level Division II program would be completely done with their senior class. And he said, no. And I said, Coach, why not? He goes, well, we're almost there, but we want to leave a few spots because we don't know what's coming. He said, Ross, it's so transactional. It's so semester to semester at this point that we would be doing our program an injustice if we hurried up and fired off and filled all of our spots. Is that kind of the sentiment that you're seeing out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of junior college coaches do the same thing. They'll go through the fall and they will purposely hold money back for D1 fallback guys. And that kind of leads into, one of the things that we want to talk about is you go to a school and you're a freshman and you've been coached pretty well to that point, and you've had success, and you go through the fall and you get the rug pulled out from under you, and now you got to go to a complete, other coaching staff in the middle of the year. And so one of the things that was interesting when Tom Holliday was on here, he was talking about Augie Garrido.
Yep.
And the fact that he was searching for a way to end confusion. And Tom mentioned they talked about it 2 or 3 different times in different settings. And it was all about getting coaches to understand that anytime you talk to a player, you're giving him input, and it may not be the best thing for the player. So, at LSU, you got 4 coaches, 5 coaches, 6 coaches. And you got a guy that's struggling, and all of a sudden the hitting coach is talking to him, the assistant hitting coach is talking to him, maybe an alum, the head coach, and they're all confusing the player. Well, think about your 8-year-old son.
Boy.
Or your 8-year-old daughter who's going to become a really good softball player. You grow up playing baseball from 8 to 13 before you even get to high school. You've probably dealt with 10 or 12 coaches, not to mention dad, mom, uncles, brothers, everybody trying to help you play the game. You get in high school, a couple freshman coaches, a couple varsity, 2 or 3. You might end up with 6 or 7 more guys there. And every summer, you got a select coach and his buddy that's helping, or teammate that's helping.
Yep.
So that's another whole group. You get into college, coaching staffs change, you get transferred out, you get transferred in. You might, by the time you're done as a player and playing in pro ball, you got a hitting coach, a roving hitting coach. Those guys get fired. Another guy comes in.
Yep.
I mean, you could end up playing for 50, 60 different coaches.
Boy.
And you don't think that leads to confusion? And so that's part of the thing that we're trying to do here, is give parents and some coaches and players an understanding of how you need to handle yourself as a player and be able to discern what's best for you as a player, because you can get inundated with information, not only that's out there that's new, all the data-driven stuff.
Yep.
But all that comes from 50 different people. So it can really be confusing and eliminates the love of the game, makes the playing of the game in a lot of ways more difficult. So there's Augie, a Hall of Fame coach, going, now how do we end confusion?
You know what? Because I like to relate stuff, I mean, as a player, I think my experiences later in my career, I became inundated. You use that word, inundated. I became overly inundated with information. And I think when we talk about eliminating confusion, ending confusion for players, boy, that's a tough topic to really think about, because I think there's a lot of players, maybe like me out there, that, man, I'm around somebody that's in this position, who's coaching at this school, who's in this organization, giving me advice. I mean, the first thing that you want to do as a player, you'll always hear the word coachable. Like, you got to be coachable. So
Yep.
when you and I decided to talk about it, man, I really wanted to gain your perspective on what eliminating confusion means. Because to me, the confusion starts like it in reality, and I'll say this, in likelihood, it starts from a good spot, because people are trying to help, right? And I think a lot of coaches will see a young player and say, "Ooh, he looks good. I want to do whatever I can to help him." And in reality, that's great, but sometimes it's extremely harmful, especially for guys that are overthinkers and that are wanting to please the coaches. So when I say, after you've kind of digested all that information, and we talked about eliminating confusion briefly with Coach Holiday on a previous episode, when I say eliminate confusion to you, what comes to mind, Coach Schwanke?
Well, as a parent and a coach, one and the same, it's, and Coach Ward's talked about this, is giving ownership to the player, allowing the player to become the owner of their game. And one of the things that the blast hitting system is, as simple as it is, it was demonstrating drills, having players do the drills, having players teach those drills to teammates and demonstrate that I did a good job explaining it to them, so that they could pick out which ones helped them. And every guy at LSU and every guy at Oklahoma State probably had a different set of the drills from our system that they used to help themselves. And as a coach, this is the part that I think I was pretty good at, is we steered them in a way that allowed them to get better while they are believing that they are the one doing their own coaching. And so as a youngster, instead of telling Billy Bob, you got to do this or you can't play, you just, as a parent, you just watch him and you let him evolve and you let him have failure and you let him have success. And you put him with teammates and guys that want to work just as hard. And, you know, working hard as a 10-year-old is, hey, you go to the ballpark and you roll the balls out and you say, go play, guys, go hit, you know. And you let them do the things that old timers used to do. And eventually they'll figure out how to stay in balance and do things a little bit better. But in our case, we put our guys through a set of drills where I evaluated, and we're going to share this tape at some point, the original tape of Brandon Larson going through our drills to where he had no idea what he looked like. In all candor, great player.
Already, just for the audience, for the sake, Coach Schwanke, inform the audience who Brandon Larson is.
Brandon was a young man from San Antonio that was a high school draft late, went to Blinn Junior College, played 2 years there, hit 12 home runs or 14 home runs in 2 years. We luckily got him to come to campus at LSU. He had some things that we worked on. It'll be a separate podcast that we'll talk about this stuff. But we had some things that even I didn't realize he did in game that he didn't practice, like a leg kick, and his posture was bad, and he did that. So all we did was get him to understand some geometry and how to practice with his leg kick and improve his body control. And he hit 40 home runs. And he became
for LSU.
Yes, and he became, a big leaguer for a short while till his career ended. And he got into scouting, and now he's a high school coach in San Antonio, giving back a little bit in the game, which is fantastic. But Brandon, when he did his first self-toss drill, it wasn't good, right? He'd never done that before. And so when I'm watching this, I'm going, boy, the bat moves. I mean, the bat moved, but he's not using his body as well as he could. And so he learned to do that through the process. And it didn't come from me telling him day one, you need to do this. It came from me pushing him into these drills, him working with buddies, him doing this stuff away from me. And I started to show up in batting practice, and all of a sudden, Katie bar the door, he's a great, fantastic player, big leaguer. And, but you can do that stuff with a 10-year-old. You can let him go out and you teach him how to self-toss, to learn how to hit by himself. And he won't fall over. He won't bend over. He'll improve his posture. He'll get better and better, ball on the sweet spot and hitting it further. And all of a sudden you got a young man that when he gets a pitch in a game, once in a while, he hits it further than he ever has in his life. And that's all you're trying to get him to do, as opposed to walking into a hitting lesson for 30 minutes and a guy's telling him what he's supposed to do, and he goes home and there's no way to practice that, right?
Wow.
And so the difference is work on yourself, go to your hitting lesson and say, Coach, this is what I need to work on today. And 10-year-olds can do that. Our guys did that. When my kid was growing up, we had guys that were taught that way. And so when they went to other people, because you can't give them enough swings, they go to other people, they say, man, I need to work on hitting the ball on the outer half of the plate today. That's all I want to work on. Well, that's doing things the right way, overcoming confusion, and polishing your own game with your own effort. And parents should applaud effort and quit worrying about, God bless, performance. Performance is such a fine line, and disappointment with failure and stuff is something that, you got to learn how to handle as a parent too, and a coach.
When you talk about eliminating confusion, because to me that's brilliant, because there's going to be so many kids that'll listen to this, and so many parents out here that'll listen to this. I think of just me as a dad, as a coach, eliminating confusion. The first and the major step in that is creating ownership for the players. Create ownership for the players, and the more they own it, the better they will obviously get. The less confused they will be. So I want to go back a step and say, as we talk about eliminating confusion for youngsters, heck, for pro guys, for college guys, eliminating confusion. Who do you know? Like, who do you know who do you trust? Because there's so many guys. You spoke directly about, hey, maybe I'll just use myself. Hey, I'm Ross Hawley. I'm 12 years old. My parents, they don't have a baseball background. I'm going to go to the local DBAT and get a lesson from, Joe Joe Smith, and I'm just supposed to trust that he's going to help my kid with the right thing. So when we talk about eliminating confusion, step one is creating ownership. But how do I know who to choose to go along in that ride with my son or my daughter as they go and they're working on whatever sport it is they're working on?
Well, that's a great question, because I'm a big fan of and we've talked about this a little bit. You can't give young guys enough swings. Our guys at LSU, or girls in softball situations, 300 swings a day, right? 300 movements as an athlete that mock the swing, so that you learn how to perfect the move you make as an athlete, right? So again, blast hitting system. There's all kinds of ways to create the movement as a hitter: wall drills, fence drills, self-toss, tee work, stuff that they literally can do in the backyard by themselves, right? To really perfect the way they move as an athlete. And that becomes mine, right? I can just imagine, if you put your mind and you think about this, you visualize Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente walking into a hitting lesson. And Willie Mays takes a stride from one end of the batter's box to the other, and a coach is going to go, "You can't do that."
Yep.
Right. Or Stan Musial sitting in the corner in a crouch, way away from the plate, taking a long stride. You can't hit that way. I mean, you can't do that. Well, yes, you can, because they're Hall of Famers, right? So you have to give your child the freedom to experiment. And when you go to a hitting lesson, you can learn something from a guy, but you're not going to learn everything that guy knows or that female instructor knows. But you can learn something, and you should internalize it and go back to your house and practice it and see if it really helps you hit the ball harder more often or throw more strikes. I mean, I just watched one of our guys throw a bullpen the other day, and it's a major league arm, and he's throwing balls that sound like shot puts when they hit the glove.
Love
it.
It's
and all this young man needs to learn is, hey, you almost want him to stand on the mound and yell, "Hey, I'm throwing you a fastball right now. Hit it for me," right? And eliminate all the things that go wrong with missing the zone and all that stuff, because his stuff is so good. And he's such a good athlete. He's a major league pitching prospect if he overcomes the fear of having the ball hit, right?
Wow.
Trying to be too perfect with every pitch. Well, that's something like we talked about before. As a 10-year-old youth league pitcher, throw it in there and let him hit it.
That's right.
Get over the fear. They're not hitting 10 home runs off of you. It doesn't happen. And so overcome that confusion of, which is big, is, having the ball hit. It's a fear. You know that as a pitcher. Oh my God, this is going to hit the ball 900 feet on me, and you walk him.
Yep.
You just miss. Well, that's confusion. That's not helping. So as a hitter, as a player, go learn and internalize it, make it your own, and build on it from there. And it doesn't happen, parents, coaches. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's one of the problems of playing all these tournaments in the summertime. Nobody hardly practices anymore. They just show up on the weekend and play. Well, that time that you're not playing is when you need to take ownership and do things on your own somehow, with the help of your dad or your parents and other players and their dads, getting guys together and taking 200 ground balls, sitting in your bedroom and doing the wall drill and learning how to control your stride and put yourself in the best athletic position without a ball being thrown at you. Something that you can perfect and never have to think about it again, because everybody's unique. I'm different than you are as a hitter when we were growing up.
That's right.
Handed. I was a switch hitter for a while, but I wasn't strong enough in my left hand because, hey, no one taught me how to do top hand self-toss to really improve how this hand could work.
Wow. You know what, Coach Schwanke, so here's what I'm hearing so far, because this is gold, man, and it's so valuable to people, whether you're starting the game of baseball or whether you're deep into it. When we talk about eliminating confusion, I hear create ownership for the player. That comes through tons of reps. You got to have a ton of reps to create true ownership of how your body moves in whatever thing you're doing.
Right.
And then when we talk about picking someone who do you trust? My contribution to this is gonna be this. To the guys out there listening, who do you trust? It just comes to my mind. Pick positivity. Choose someone who loves the game, because I know this. Baseball is the hardest sport in the world, in my opinion. And if you can do it at a certain level, really what it comes down to is your mentality, your confidence. And where does confidence comes from? Confidence comes from believing in yourself, right? And I think if you're going and you're seeing an instructor and that's great. Get stuff and learn stuff from them. But who do you trust? Who do you pick? Pick someone who's going to lift you up, not in a fake way, but pick someone who's going to lift you up, who's going to encourage you through failure, who's going to encourage you that failure is okay, but someone that loves the game. Because if they truly love the game, they understand how hard it is. They understand how delicate the psyche is, and they're wanting your best. And if you're around someone that's always picking you apart, I think back, and I won't say names, but I think back to the coaches that made the biggest impacts on me, even to this day. Like, I consider you my coach, Coach Schwanke. I'm 45, but you're my coach. Okay. This guy, Coach Schwanke, is super realistic with me, but he's positive with me, the way we talk. But when you have mentors, people that are helping you in the game, you want someone who is going to believe in you, who's going to push you, but who's going to believe that you can get what you want to get out of this game. Because this game is so hard that if you're constantly around somebody who's telling you you're not good or it's wrong, there's only so much of that you can take before you say, F it, I'm done. This game is too hard for me. What are your thoughts on that, Coach Schwanke?
Well, it is a game. It's really, the old Yogi Berra quote, hitting's 90% mental and the other half physical. There's a Hall of Famer, and he sounds pretty confused to me right there. But he hit, right? He swung the bat. He had fun playing the game. He's talking to hitters in the batter's box in World Series games, and they want to hit him over the head. Shut up, Yogi. Quit talking. And but he played the game with enthusiasm and fun, and was highly gifted. Again, the player needs to be responsible. So when you're young, the parent really needs to be responsible. And the parent, again, it goes back to put him in with people that other people say, this guy's helped, right? And that comes from being involved with really good organizations, whether it's a DBAT or the Dallas Tigers or whoever that organization is. You can see those players. And then you can see the coaches that come back to help those organizations, guys that played for them. Well, they're coming back to help, right? And there isn't a youth coach, I don't think, that wants a kid to fail or struggle. Right. But some of them get caught up in winning a little bit too much, in my opinion. Winning takes care of itself over time. We had a lot of pressure to perform, whether it was at Oklahoma State or LSU as a team. But I never heard G-Dub or Skip talk about the pressure of winning the game. It was always about how do we play the game the right way, right?
Wow.
And so that's something that comes from a parent stepping back instead of worrying about how my son or daughter compares with that other son or daughter in this ranking system that goes on in youth sports now. It's all about how does my son and daughter continue to improve? So find people that will drive players to improve through effort and, like you said, positivity, which in a lot of cases is overblown. I mean, you'd rather have that than a guy that takes a team out for 30 minutes and browbeats them after they, lose an 11 and you semifinal game because they made mistakes. Well, guess what? Mistakes happen. We got to the semifinals. We won 6 games this weekend, Coach, and we lost 1. Come on, give me a break. And the other guys are pretty good. So that's the nature of this stuff. I mean, I can remember playing against teams that were 59-4, and we beat the heck out of them. Why? Well, maybe we're more prepared to play the game the right way than they were. When somebody punches you in the mouth, guess what? You got to overcome that or you're going home. And so those things can be learned on a Sunday at a field here in Frisco, Texas, in a youth league tournament. And that's something that parents, you need to let them feel that. You let them need to feel the success they have through their work. All of a sudden, they feel unbelievably good about themselves. And then when they fail, when they make the error, and I can tell you, I made errors that ended seasons as a kid growing up. Not much fun. And you feel it. And you don't need anybody telling you how much of a horse's rear end you are repeatedly about that play, right? And so if a parent will just let the young athlete feel it and go through it, and the next day that they're working on something, you walk up to them and say, man, I was proud of your effort this weekend. This is fantastic. You're out here doing this again. What can I help you with? All of a sudden, your son, daughter, really feels like you're invested with them rather than sitting in the house or not taking them somewhere to work on their game, upset because the other guy's team beat us this weekend.
That's right.
Right? Well, there's a lot of that goes on with youth league sports, the rivalries of organizations and stuff. And that's one of the things we did. We overcame that by practicing our team with teams that we played against and competed against at really high levels so that we could play the game better, more often.
Boy, what a concept. What a concept. Coach Schwanke, this is episode 41 of the Baseball Forward podcast. We're talking about eliminating confusion today. Before we go on to the next topic, I want to say thank you to like all of the followers that we've gained and the folks out there listening to this Baseball Forward podcast. And I'm gonna put you on the spot as we wrap up the eliminating confusion topic. And this is going to be a spot for the social media. You can go follow us at the Baseball Forward podcast on social media. But in a minute, Coach Schwanke, I would like your summary of eliminating confusion. So if you're just popping this podcast on, or you're about ready to watch some of the Baseball Forward podcast on social media, Coach Schwanke, eliminating confusion in a minute or less, how would you summarize eliminating confusion for players?
Well, as a coach or a parent, you need to have a system, so to speak, that is very simple, something that you can demonstrate to your athlete how to do this, how to do that, watch them, and then help them become more proficient at that skill, whatever it is. And we did that with a system that was tailored for experimentation. It was never set up to make kids have to do things a certain way. And so you gave a young athlete a chance to experiment, add to their game. Every one of our guys at LSU had a different drill to go back to get into their physical being and get out of the Yogi Berra mental state of confusion. Eddie Furness, one of the great hitters of all time, was going back and doing the wall drill because he dove on the front foot. Casey Kuntz, who was a 10th round draft pick, would go over and just get into his own physical being on a tee, way off by himself. And those are the things that a simplistic system allows kids to do. So as a coach, whatever the system is, have it so that you can show it to kids. And then one of the great things is to have your player demonstrate the same drill to his peers and coach it to them. We had Roberto Lopez at Oklahoma State, who was a switch hitter. We made him teach top hand self-toss all summer to our campers, turn himself into a 4th round draft pick because he had to improve his left hand because he was a right, middle infielder, threw right hand. This hand, his left hand wasn't developed. Simple things like that, and one skill at a time. Don't overload people with, we got to do all these things to the detriment of doing any of them well.
Wow.
And so that becomes, again, simplistic system eliminates confusion. And then if you have assistant coaches, get them to understand the system too, so that they don't input things that confuse where you're trying to go. And I think that's one of the things that's it's kind of funny about professional baseball. And I can tell you as personally that I've had guys make big moves and have a hitting instructor fly in and get them to do just diametrically opposite things.
Wow.
For whatever reason. And so if you don't have strength of character that you learned as 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old on how to handle that relationship, confusion will set in immediately, or resentment or things you can't do. You got to learn how to handle and discern information that comes from that simplistic system. And man, it could be just 3 things. This summer, I'm going to teach my 15 guys 3 things. That's it. And we're going to do them repeatedly because I know it helps them become better players. And that's really important. You can't get it all in a 30-minute, 1-hour hitting lesson. But if the player goes in with one thing that they've been working on and they talk to the instructor about it, and the instructor says, well, that's a great thing that you're working on. What about using this drill to work on that? Then all of a sudden you might have another bullet in your gun to use as an athlete. So that's my answer. I mean, it's a lot longer than a minute, but have a simplistic system that you can demo, the players learn, you can check them to see if they've learned it. They can kick it out the door or they can add it to their game, and away they go. And if they get really good at it, they're going to teach their younger brother how to do it. They're going to teach the freshmen how to do it with their high school kid. And all of a sudden you have a team that's going to go in the same direction more often than not.
Boy, that is really, really good stuff. And I was writing down as you were talking, something that comes to my mind of we talk about failure a lot. Learning how to handle failure. And what I wrote down is I said, you equip to process information, equip to process, discern information. I think that's the process, because everybody wants the magic pill, the magic statement that says, how do you teach someone how to handle failure? Boy, Coach Schwanke, when you were explaining that to me, that's why I think you're a good coach. Is I'm like, boy, that sticks out. So I've got to teach myself as a player how to. It's not that being coachable is saying no to someone. Being coachable is taking what you need to take in that moment and saying, there's only so much you can process, and you can't process it all. You're not going to learn everything that this guy has to learn. But equip to process and discern information. And then I want to summarize for the players out there listening, and for the parents out there listening. Boy, when you talk about eliminating confusion for your players, how you can help them, ownership, have them create ownership. Coach is talking about creating a system and a process. If you're a coach, if you're the player, hey, create, allow your player to create ownership. And then I'm going to say, I'll throw it in there, and I'm going to say, create ownership, and then handle failure, learn how to handle failure / teach them that it's okay to not learn it all at once. It's okay to fail, but I think the goal is ownership. Is that the when we talk about eliminating confusion from a player, the goal is, from a player's perspective, the goal is to create ownership for the player.
Yeah, when you create ownership, it breeds, confidence, self-confidence.
Yes.
I just watched Arizona basketball play Iowa State. Caleb Love is a very dynamic player. He's 0 for 9 3-pointers. But he kept working on defense. He kept playing the game the right way, deflecting, defending, doing things, diving on the floor, doing things that showed that he's trying to play the game the right way. And then all of a sudden, with 2 seconds left, he drains a 64-foot shot to send it into overtime, a 3-pointer, and then makes 2 3-pointers in the overtime, and they blow out Iowa State. Well, he never quit making the effort, right? Even as bad as he was playing as a shooter, he played the other parts of the game very, very well. And it carried forward into another moment where all of a sudden he saved his team. It's like the old 2-strike, 2-out base hit to win the game when the guy's 0 for 4. If you keep working at it the right way, all of a sudden the degrees of success and the consistency of success increases just a little bit. And that's all you're asking for in baseball. You get it all at once. You got going 1,000 for 1,000, right? So let's just find a way to continue to get better and better in increments. And if you do that and you encourage that, then the confusion and the need to impact a player with some magic formula that you just talked about goes away. The player learns to work and improve a little bit. And his, Skip Burton's old statement is, we got to improve, 1/2 of 1% a day. Well, that's true. That's true. And so just applaud that effort to try and do that, and your team will get better.
Boy, I like that. I want to get into, there's 3 topics today, and I said we're going to talk about eliminating confusion. Check. Then we're going to talk about culture and leadership. I want to skip through culture, and I want to get to leadership, because I feel like leadership within a program, within a team, within an organization, creates the proper culture. So Coach Schwanke, talking on the Baseball Forward podcast, episode 41. You can go follow us on social media. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Ross Hawley, and this is Coach Jim Schwanke, national champion, LSU. When we talk about leadership, Coach, boy, I'm going to leave this vague for you. So when I told you today or yet last night, I said, hey, I want to talk about leadership. What are kind of the bullet points that come to your mind when you talk about leadership, and the points that you want to make to the Baseball Forward audience?
Well, that's a tough one. Now, leadership is something that occurs over time. You have to earn it. You have to earn the respect of your teammates. You have to earn the respect of your coaches that are coaching you to allow you to have that role. And it's something that is really unique. And you find it in different ways. And in baseball, it's easy to spot guys that are not prepared to do that. Whether it's the guy that bangs the bat in the bat rack when he takes a strike, and he blames the umpire, even though he fouled 2 pitches off that were right down the middle, and then he took a pitch that was a ball and got called out. the umpire doesn't yell at the kid, "Hey, you missed 2 pitches right down the middle, buddy." I missed 1. So those things are easy to, or the pitcher that reacts to an error behind them. I mean, I just watched the young guy that jumped out at me in Florida. He's a, freshman, true freshman. And he goes 1-2, first 2 up, 2 outs, first inning, throwing the heck out of the ball, gives up a base hit and to a first baseman who was, looked like he was about 6'3", about 240 pounds. And he tries to pick him off with the next pitch. And he throws it right field line. The guy lumbers all the way to third, right?
Jeez.
And then he comes back and he throws 2 sliders that were like John Smoltz. And you go, this guy's got it. Because most of the time, guys will throw a wild pitch or, young guy will panic, throw something down the middle, a guy will clobber it, and it's a 2-run inning because of a mistake that he made internally trying to pick off a guy that can't run, right? But he didn't do that. And then you watch him come off the field, and he comes off the field like he knows what he's doing, and he sits down. And you walk over to the coach and go, "Who's it? Yeah, he's got it, Jim. He's got it."
Wow.
So it comes from leadership as a coach. When you're looking for it, it comes from your eyes and it comes from your ears, listening to how players interact with each other, listening how they, again, goes back to handling failure. How do you handle failure? And then it becomes, how do you handle the big moments, right? How do you handle the pressure moments? And so when Todd Walker or Pete Incaviglia went to home plate at Oklahoma State, you just had a feeling that something was going to happen the right way, right? I played with a guy named Dave Stegman at Arizona. He faced Floyd Bannister, who was the #1 pick in the country, and owned that guy. I don't know how. He must have hit 500 off the guy, for 3 years. And Floyd was one of the greatest college pitchers of all time. Dave Stegman was one of the great players of all time. And it was just fun to watch that conference. Dave Stegman didn't say boo to anybody. He just worked at the game. He didn't do anything wrong. He was a great student. He was a great teammate because he just performed and worked and led by effort. So one of those guys, right? As opposed to the other guys who take all the pressure off their teammates because everybody in the other dugout hates his guts, right? You've been around those guys.
Yep.
And it's nice to have that guy because then they don't think about me. I'm the 5-hole hitter, and that guy, they're throwing a 3-hole guy, and that takes a lot of pressure off. Well, he earned that. Yeah, he earned that by performing.
I want to ask you this, Coach Schwanke, because being in the position that you're in now, Coach Schwanke represents players. Guys, he's been there, done that, and the way he evaluates talent is on a level that I've never seen. So how I want the importance of leadership. You just said, let me ask you this. When you went down to Florida this weekend, the guy that you just said that just dropped 2 sliders in there like he'd been there, done that. Did you know who he was? Were you expecting to go watch that guy play this weekend?
No.
He wasn't on your radar.
No.
So leadership, when we start talking about leadership, that's one of the first stories you bring up. So leadership jumped out to your eyes and you said, boy, that's leadership. That's a leadership ability. He has it. So when you're evaluating guys, because you said something earlier in this podcast, this episode, of your funnel has gotten even smaller of the guys. It's not just the guys that can get drafted. It's the guys, hey, that can get to the big leagues.
Right.
It's not, when you're evaluating a guy, how important to you is seeing those leadership qualities? And I'm not talking about the rah-rah guy. I'm talking about how important is it to you to say, boy, that guy, he is a leader. He leads himself or he leads his teammates. How important is leadership when you evaluate talent?
Well, again, the guys that we're dealing with are probably, in most cases, the star or the best player on that team in that setting. And so you're going to watch them play well and see what they do well. You're looking at tools, obviously, but you're watching them to see, again, how they stand out under duress. Right? They come to the plate with two guys on, open base. How do they handle getting pitched around? Right. I watched a young man, again, goes back, back when Team One was the event. Team One National in Cincinnati, old Crosley Field. Josh Booty's in there, CC, but there's really great players. It was a small pool of players. And I was there to watch a shortstop from Louisville, Kentucky. And we wanted him to come to LSU. And he faced a kid from Michigan. They called him the little unit, little Randy Johnson guy.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing the heck out of it. So here's our shortstop in the box. Fastball strike, breaking ball strike. He swung at the fastball and took the breaking ball. And then the guy drops down and throws, he's 6'7", whatever he was, throws sidearm for strike 3. And his name was Scott Hodges. He takes his helmet off, puts it on the plate, takes his batting gloves off, puts them in his helmet, hands it to the little bat boy, jogs out to shortstop. I went, huh. Acted like a big leaguer.
Yep.
Yeah, he just faced the best pitching prospect in the draft, probably, or one of them, and handled it well. Well, we got him, and he told me that if I don't go in the first 2 rounds, I'm going to come to LSU. Well, he got drafted in the second round, and the rest is history. He didn't come. But that moment of handling the situation the right way proved to me that young man was going to be really, really solid player. And I really wanted him there. Had nothing to do with hitting the ball off the wall. Had nothing to do with that. I already knew he could do that. I'd already seen that, but I had never seen that. Right. I had in my son's district around here, we had a young man named Matt Lipka.
Oh, yeah.
And Matt could run. He was a wide receiver in football, tougher than heck. And we're playing at Frisco Wakeland High School, and somebody hits a pop-up down the left field line, and some of our dads stood down the left field line away from everybody. And Lipka, who was a legitimate 6'2", 5 runner, 6'3" runner, runs down the left field line, catches it in foul territory, runs by us and goes, "Pretty good catch, huh?" And runs into the and I'm going, okay.
Oh.
He's got it. And then I went to watch him play, with him not knowing I'm there a couple times just to see how he handled it. And one was a loss to Highland Park in a pretty heated game, and he handled everything the right way. And he eventually became a client and went, as a supplemental first rounder and made it, quite a ways in baseball. But it was leadership and not reacting and not being a jerk and just having fun playing the game and doing things the right way, where you could see he was enthusiastic about what he was doing. And that was fun to watch. And so those things show up, and I'm watching. I mean, I don't go and talk to scouts, spend a lot of time. I'm watching how they act in the dugout, how they act with their teammates, because the game is tough, right? You know that. Minor league baseball is a tough grind, and you got to have tons of character to survive that.
Boy,
and
you
those
do.
characters and those leadership steps, and it's almost like self-leadership, right? If I can manage myself the right way, I'm going to be able to help my teammates the right way. And that can be learned really soon. I think parents sometimes, they want to soothe their children's failures. And what they need to do is let them feel the failure and let them share that with their teammates. And then they can help their teammates with those same feelings when they occur. And all of a sudden, those kids grow together, they bond, they'll pay the price together. I mean, I just watched a highlight film that my mom made of us in the Junior College World Series and got it transferred over to a little flash drive.
Heck yeah.
And sent the 2 or 3 of my roommates and teammates that I played with, and they couldn't believe it. I had that.
That's amazing.
I almost came, brought tears to our eyes when you're talking about those sacrifices that we made and the drive that we made through that to win that championship. And that's what you want your children to experience in leadership, the ability for kids to help their teammates comes from letting your sons and daughters feel the ups and downs of the game and managing themselves. Self-leadership leads to team leadership. That's just my opinion.
Boy, I like that. Self-leadership leads to team leadership. And I think of the analogy of if the plane's going down, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on before you help anybody else. So if you're listening to this, you really can't be a leader of men or women if you are unable to lead yourself. So that seems like a simple task, daily task to be a leader of yourself. So I want to get micro into this, Coach Schwanke, because I love that. Like, what are daily things that I can do as a kid, as a young man? Coach Schwanke, my goal is to become a big leaguer. I want to be the greatest player that ever lived. What can I do as a young player to practice leadership skills when no one's watching, when people are watching? What can I do to practice leadership?
Well, you got to show up and do the work in whatever venue or I mean, today it's raining, right? So what can you do inside to help yourself become a better player today, right? It could be something as simple as doing some stuff on the wall. It could be reading a book about Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays. It could be watching some videos of Hall of Fame guys hitting and going, man, look at how that guy hits. Are you kidding me? Well, I'm going to try that tomorrow, right? Internalizing what I need to do to try and keep the game alive for myself and my buddies. And maybe I'm going to get a hold of Dad and say, can we go hit it at a D-bat at 8:30 tonight? Can we go get Billy and go over and hit, and because we can't practice, they got canceled. If you can find a way to do something every day as a leader of yourself, then that carries forward into everything, and so those are the things that are really too much coach controlled in the world today. And you gotta turn loose of the players and let them have some fun once in a while. I mean, every day we had certain things that I wanted them to work on in the cage, but it was really about 20% of the time that they were in there. The rest of the time they can work on their own stuff. And I just watch, right? And so what are you working on? And if you ask them to internalize it and discuss it, then you know that they can, then you know that you're making progress. They're making progress. And I think it's more, can the player work on their own, encourage that, don't tell them what to do. Again, I go back to Willie going, hey, I'm going to go pick up Billy Bob, go hit on his own, when he had a car finally. That was a big thing, right?
Yep.
Hey, I'm gonna go over to Joe's house. We're gonna play some wiffle ball out in the rain. Go do it, man. Get out there. Go do those things that keep you moving on days when no one else is moving around and doing something. Finding a way to lead is nothing more than dragging people with you. Having empathy for where they are and what they're going through is something that's easy to watch as a coach and pick out those guys, and then eliminating and helping guys that are, I don't know what the word is, false hustlers or guys that talk too much, guys that they're fake, help those guys become real as a coach. That was something that was really important to me, especially with young kids, because again, we get into all these ranking things, and we had a young man come to Lakeland High School as a freshman. See, I'm the number 6th ranked shortstop in the country.
Ooh.
And my son, who was a junior, looked at him and said, boy, I hope you are. Right? Well, he wasn't, but he became a really good pitcher and he played outfield, but he wasn't. But everybody in his family thought he was. So he had to overcome some issues with that. Well, that's not really self-leadership. That's relying on something external trying to tell you how good you are. Players on a team know how good they are. And that pecking order will assert itself over time. As a coach, just watch it and manage it and ask the guys that you see at the top to pick the guys up at the bottom and build them up and bring them along, because you got to have 15 of them to win a state championship. Last time I checked.
You know what? Something that I learned from you. I really truly mean this when I say, because that resonates with me. I think most people would help the fake guys become real. Something that I've learned just from you is you don't waste your time with the negativity, overwhelming yourself with the negativity of a potential situation. Coach Schwanke is, you are super focused on the positivity or the solution. It doesn't necessarily have to be positivity, but you're focused on the solution of where we want to be. I would consider you a leader of men. Duh, you coached at LSU, you won national championships. I'm trying to draw in this for the audience is what I'm learning for you from the position that I'm in is you don't have time to drown in the or wallow in the yuck of any situation. You assess it, you move forward, and you move forward with a solution that is viable, that is positive, or that's the right solution for everybody. That to me, so when I'm thinking about what I learned by just listening to some of this stuff is a lot of people would say the guys that are out there being fake, I'm guilty of it. F them. They don't have the same heart as I do. They don't want it the same way that I do. What I'm hearing from you is, holy cow. No, let's get them on the right path. Make that make sense for me.
Well, the negativity stuff, I can give you a really clear-cut example. I mean, LSU, we're good, and we're struggling bat supposedly. And Skip comes to me and goes, "Hey, today write down everything that we do wrong, so we can coach them up a little bit." So I'm down at the end of the dugout with a legal pad, and I'm writing down, took a 2-0 fastball, swung and missed it, this and that. I got like a page and a half of stuff.
Ooh.
Through the 4th inning, but we're ahead 6-2.
Wow.
So I walked down to Skip and said, "Coach, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. I got all this stuff here, and we're up 6-2. The game has a lot of negative stuff that you have to overcome every at bat, every pitch." He goes,
Wow.
"Good point. Throw it in the tray." Right. And so that's where parents and coaches can get sucked into this thing, where all of a sudden, why'd you take that 2-0 pitch?
Yeah.
Why? Well, because a bird flew by and it distracted me, or the umpire coughed and it distracted me, or it was not in my hitting zone. All the things that go into that moment, that instant, could be completely away from a kid being a jackass, right? And failing. It just happens. So overcome it, get ready for the 2-1 pitch and hit it off the wall, right? So coaches have to avoid that, because it sucks down. It brings all the energy out of the dugout. And I can still remember Coach Ward yelling across the field at Nebraska. We're down 10-0. He goes, "It's about even right now." Well, everybody in the dugout's singing, "Well, okay, shit, maybe we are about even now." And you come back and win the game somehow. I don't know how, but it's just a belief that you have in going forward and being positive, as opposed to dwelling in the negative. And it happens every day. You see it every day. I saw it this weekend with all these great junior college teams. You'll see parents throwing hissy fits over their son's lack of performance. And kids know that,
Wow. Yeah,
They know
even at the
they,
junior college level.
yeah.
I just wrote this down. Leaders focus on winning right now. And that's the best way that I can sum up what listening to you again is I'm like what I'm learning from you is you focus on winning right now. Okay, I just got beat. Okay, but what can I do right now? Not what am I going to do 20 minutes from now? What can I do right now? Leaders focus on winning right now.
Well, it's the old acronym WIN. What's important now, right?
Ooh, there it
So
is.
that's a coaching tidbit, or it's could be for salesmen too. It could be for life. What's important right now, and so how do you shut that out? Well, if your coaches won't let you shut it out, how are you going to do that as a player? Then it takes really strong character to overcome that. Trust me. And so, if a coach will allow you to overcome failure in that instance without reacting to it, and the easiest way that I know that to overcome that is always coach ahead. When it's a 1-0 pitch coming to a hitter or a 2-0 pitch coming to a hitter, look him right in the eye. And G-Dub was really good at that. Look him right in the eye and say, get a good pitch in it right here. The old Ted Williams, quote, but coach ahead, not why did you take the 2-0 pitch?
Yep.
Coach ahead. And therefore the kid's prompted to look for his pitch, get it. And if he takes it, he's probably right because he was prepped. How do you handle a bunt situation? We had 2 bunt defenses. That was it. We didn't have 12. We didn't have all this exotic stuff running around, double picks, second baseman chart. We just picked the ball up and got it out, right? Because we thought our pitchers were pretty good. They could strike a guy out, get a guy out with a runner at third. We just simplified it down, and we practiced full speed so that players could build confidence in how to play the game the right way at full speed. And so when you do that, then you got kids that understand that they're going to trust you and you can trust them. And if you have to move them off of a position, that's the other thing that happens a lot with young players is they feel like they have to play a certain position. And we've talked about this in the past, but coaches are going to put, for the most part, their best players in the right spot without politics being involved.
That's right.
And if there is politics involved, go to a different team because that coach doesn't have the best interest of his team or his players in mind.
I like that. You know what, Coach Schwanke, we're gonna end this episode 41 of the Baseball Forward podcast. That's some really good stuff today. I like that. We didn't get into culture, but you know what? I think eliminating confusion and leadership, those are 2 paramount things to consider or to get good at if you want to be a really good baseball player. I'll let you finish it up for us.
Well, again, if the players are, if guys in that blast hitting system at LSU or the star system that Coach Ward had at, Oklahoma State, those players learn that, they become empowered to lead youngsters and younger teammates to learn that system. It becomes part of the culture, right? Well, we can talk about some other time, but empowering kids to help each other, which is kind of a form of leadership.
That's right.
Allows the team to be stronger and stronger. And it's very simple if you just empower your kids to go teach themselves.
Coach Schwanke, we will see you next time on another episode of the Baseball Forward podcast. See you guys.
See ya.